This is Ms. Kuhn, and today we're going to talk about factor boxes. But first, let's talk about factors. If you look at this expression, you can see that we have 2 times the quantity x plus 3. We have 2 factors, the 2 and the x plus 3, and when we multiply those, we get the product. And you know to use the distributive property to multiply this out, and we get 2x plus 6. When we talk about factoring an expression, we're really doing the distributive property in reverse. So what is it that I can divide both of these by and factor out? I can see that I can divide both of them by 2. So again, you can go back to the original equation by factoring that 2 out. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about factoring. So now, today, since we're going to talk about factor boxes, this is a factor box. And this represents, we're going to put all of the pieces of our expression into those boxes. And this represents the area of our expression as well as all of the pieces. And we use these especially when we're factoring something with an a value of greater than 1. So let's take our first example. We have 4x squared plus 16x plus 15. The only difference from factoring with an a value of 1 is that we're going to look at a times c. And that's because this a value is going to impact how we arrive at this b value. So 4 times 15 is, I'm going to do it over here, 4 times 15 is 60. So now, just like when you were factoring with an a value of 1, we're going to ask what multiplies to 60 but sums to 16. So I'm going to make a little factor tree because I don't like to keep things in my head. So we have 1 and 60, not going to get us to 16. 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, I'm getting closer, 5 and 12, and finally 6 and 10. I can stop at 6 and 10 because I can see that 6 plus 10 gives me 16x. So that's going to tell me what I'm going to put in these squares for my x values. So the first thing that we fill out with a factor box is our 4x squared and our 15. Those will always go in those spots. And now I know because of the 6 and the 10 that I can have 6x and 10x. And if you see, all of these pieces sum up to our original expression. So now, and it does not matter where I put the 6x or the 10x. I could have put 10x up here as well. Now, all we have to do is factor this, and that's why it's called a factor box. So first, I look at the top row. What can I factor out of 4x squared and 6x? I know I can factor a 2 out, and I can also factor an x out. So now, this is the side length of this little rectangle. So 2x times what gives me 4x squared? We have 2x. 2x times what gives me 6x? 3. And I write positive 3 or plus 3 because that's going to help me when I write my factors later. Now, the only thing we have to fill out is the number that goes down here. So since we know that this length is 2x, 2x times what gives me 10x? Positive 5. And now, hopefully, if everything worked out, positive 5 times positive 3 gives me 15. So we have just factored our quadratic, and I know that my final equation will be, well, since this should have been an equation, equals y. Okay, y equals 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 5. Okay, and I can multiply this back out and make sure that I get my original answer. So 2x times 2x is 4x. 2x times 5 is 10x. 3 times 2x is 6x. And 3 times 5 is 15. If I add these two together, I will get my original equation. So I've checked my answer. I've checked my answer, and I know that we did the right thing. Let's do one more example. Okay, so now we have 8x squared minus 14x minus 15. So again, my first step is 8 times negative 15 is negative 120. 8 times negative 15 is negative 120. So now I have to look at the factors of negative 120 And my goal is to find ones that sum to negative 14. I'm not going to keep this in my head. So again, I'm going to make a little factor tree. I'm not going to bother with 1 this time. So 2 and 60, 3 and 40. And again, I always go in an orderly fashion so I don't miss anything. 4 and 30, 5 and 24. I'm getting close. And 6 and 20. And I notice that the difference between 6 and 20 is, in fact, negative 14. So since I have negative 14, I have to figure out which one of these is going to be negative. Obviously, the 20 has to be negative in order to give me negative 14x. I'm going to draw out my factor box. Whoop, too squiggly. Bad factor box. Okay, fill in my 8x squared and my negative 15. And now, again, it doesn't matter where I put these. I'm just going to put the 6x here, negative 20x here. I could have done it either way. We factor it out. I can take a 2 out of 8 and 6, as well as an x from the x squared and 6x. So 2x times what gives me 8x squared? 4x. 2x times what gives me 6x? Positive 3. Now, 4x times what gives me negative 20x? Minus 5. And I can check. Negative 5 times positive 3 gives me negative 15. So our factors are correct. We have y equals 4x plus 3 times 2x minus 5. And I'm going to bring in my little easy button.
That was easy.
Okay, so go ahead and move on to the practice page, and we will answer any questions when we meet in our live session.